Hello ladies, fellows, everyone else. I'm Leo K. I stabbed an alarming number of individuals in Assassin's Creed 2, and now I am going to talk about it. So what this video is, it's all four of the previous ones smushed together into one, and it will feature my real-time voiced thoughts on various assassinations, how I felt about them, whether I think they're fun or not, and the reasoning behind why I do certain actions. So right off the bat here, quick little tech that a lot of people should know is that if you hold high profile and just run off edges in the early Assassin's Creed games, so AC1 to Revelations, the assassin will usually just run off the edge if it's close enough to street level. So one thing that was really important to me, just in terms of aesthetics and role-playing, is that I wanted to start off the first assassination of the first video with a blend kill, because I feel like this is one of the things that I certainly miss most from the original Assassin's Creed games, is this idea of being the blade in the crowd, which, you know, they did a lot of their marketing on that when these games were first coming out, and they continued to do this kind of marketing all the way up to like Unity and Syndicate to a degree. And now it's just nowhere to be found, which I guess makes sense because it's no longer a core mechanic, but anyway. We're just gonna do some simple parkour here, and there's a bit of a silly thing that happens to me in this memory that I sort of salvage and recover from, that some people might find funny. But we're gonna leap into this haystack. There's a guy right here. This is our first of 3 targets in this memory. We're gonna wipe him out, run up this parkour starter. I do a kind of weird disjointed jump here, and I catch ledge to save myself from having to hit the ground. I want to cross the street, and this is a really fast way to do that. So in AC2 and I think Brotherhood and Revelations as well, Ezio can kind of like get stuck on characters when he does an animation on them, and that's why here you see me slide off and have to re-grab onto the ledge in order to stop myself from falling down. The rest of it here is just a stylish air assassination. I like the little hops before it, feels kind of cool. And I toss this body in the water because I still have time before it fades to white. So here once again I'm running off with high profile from short edges, short drops. There's gonna be a lot of running here. Like a lot of running. This is something that I think could have been addressed, not so much in Florence, Forli, and San Gimignano. It's usually okay in those, but later in the Venice video, probably because the city is just so big, there's a lot of running between objectives, and I feel like they could have put in more pigeon coops in Venice to accommodate for the larger city size. But I mean, even this run that you see here in Florence, it's not actually that long compared to some of the running around you'll see me do in Venice. Anyway, this is kind of a neat thing that a lot of people don't know you can do. If you lock thieves from ground level, even though they're on a rooftop, you can hire them from a distance. And I hire these guys in order to pull this line of guards away. Every hireable faction in Assassin's Creed 2 has like a different function, and they become marginally less useful in Brotherhood because you have call assassins in that game, but in this game there are additional player tools that you can use to solve certain puzzles and solve certain situations. So thieves' main thing is that they pull people away, and as you might imagine, that's super useful for literally just removing guard presence in an area. This was back in a day when you couldn't just hold forward to climb every wall. If Ezio doesn't have something to grab onto, you just have to find something to grab onto. So I'm gonna hire courtesans here and kind of explain how they work. Courtesans are a moving blend group that moves with you. So most of the time when Ezio is hiding in a crowd, if the crowd is stationary, you can chill inside that crowd, and it kind of acts like a haystack or a bench from AC1, but you can't really move out of it. Likewise, if a crowd is moving, you can stay in the moving crowd, but you're really at its mercy. Ezio has to go where the crowd goes. Whereas if you hire courtesans, they will actually stay on you. In a way, courtesans are probably the quote-unquote strongest hire group in Assassin's Creed 2. And the reason I say so is because they have the most functions within the same hire group, within the same faction, compared to mercenaries and thieves. So pretty much their only weakness is that they can't actually follow you onto rooftops. But in that regard, they're, mercenaries share that weakness, so it's not really much of a drawback. But courtesans can blend you anywhere on the map for the most part. They can be sort of cast onto a guard to distract them, or you can use their passive effect, which acts kind of like a shield that you can expend and burn. If you are in a courtesan blend group and you walk through guard attention, they will break off and auto-distract the guard that you walk into. Usually they will break off 2 at a time. So 2 girls will go to distract your enemy and 2 will stay with you, which is enough to keep you blended. So you basically have 2 charges of courtesan blend if you use their passive effect to, kind of shield yourself from detection. Other than that, if courtesans are hired by you and you get into a fight, they will actually pull out daggers and they will start fighting with you. Now, you might be wondering, oh, they probably do the least damage out of thieves and mercs. First of all, I'm not sure if that's actually true. And second, it doesn't matter, because most of the time when you hire factions to fight guards, you're not doing it for the damage. You're doing it for the distraction. And kind of for the crowd control. So this mission is notable because it's completely random. The target can spawn in any one of these little courtyards, and you actually have to manually search for him every single time you reload the mission, and it's pretty aggravating. So I just hired these girls for insurance, not because I actually needed them. We're just gonna stab this guy, and we are going to be fine. I really like my movement in this opening section. It's just really cool. And the rest of it is pretty standard and not terribly interesting. So this is a super long tailing mission, and I don't think anyone actually wants to rewatch this after the, the raw video, the no commentary version. But basically you're just gonna follow this guy until he leads you to his leader, and then you can kill his leader, and that's pretty much it. I will say one thing though. Minstrels, or bards, which are this game's version of beggars, they will not aggro onto Ezio. Well, not really aggro, but They will not beg money from Ezio if you're blended into a normal blend group, but if you're blended into hireable courtesans, they will see right through it and they'll still walk up and beg you for money. Now, there are a few ways to deal with minstrels in AC2, and one of these ways is universal, which means it also works for all other types of beggars, including the beggars in AC1. And first of all, you can pickpocket them, and it will make them break off and not care about you anymore. You can also throw them, which will scare them away. This was actually kind of silly. This was pure rage on my part. I just chucked that guy, and the guards in front of me turned around and started looking at me. So I hid in that blend group that was completely improvised. It wasn't scripted or rehearsed. It wasn't supposed to quote unquote happen, but whatever. Comedy. Obviously you can stab them if you don't care about breaking any tenets of the Assassin's Creed, but we don't like to do that here on this channel. We follow the creed. And the final way is the universal method I mentioned, and it works in AC1 as well, and it works by understanding how the AI of beggars functions. So the AI of beggars has a very simple behavior. And I learned this on thehiddenblade.com eons ago. I don't actually know who taught it to me. Maybe it was Ian, maybe it was Stab Guy, maybe it was Oral, I don't know. Like, it could have been anyone. But basically, beggars will always go to the assassin's front. So let's say you're walking down the street and a beggar walks up to you. They come up to your front, they start, obstructing you. What you do is you use your left stick or your movement keys to turn your character to face backwards. And since the beggar will always go to the assassin's front, you can then peel away forward where they no longer are, and then just run out of the situation. So that's a super easy way to deal with beggars in AC1. And they're much more frustrating in that game because, you don't have a handy projectile, you don't have money and coins that you can just select and throw onto the ground to distract them, right? You have to kind of understand how their AI actually works in order to deal with them. And if you don't, you will find them very, very frustrating. One of my favorite things about beggars in AC1 is actually that they get so entitled and salty if Altair doesn't give them any money, even though he can't, there are no built-in mechanics for it, that if you try to parkour away from them, sometimes they'll start chucking rocks at you, and that always made me laugh really hard. So I hire these courtesans purely to distract guards that are, might be walking a little too close to me, because I don't want them around this edge of the street. So I can walk up here, lock this guy, snipe him from the roof, and decide not to go that way, just in case. So here I will apply Assassin's Creed Unity tactics to Assassin's Creed 2, namely smoke bombs. Now, one of the crazy things about smoke in AC2 is that its radius is actually ridiculous. There's just no other way to say it. The radius of smoke in this game is absurd. I seriously, I have no other way to express how insane it is. The radius of smoke in this game not only reaches far in terms of its animation and its visuals, it also actually spreads out a little bit farther than the actual animation. So what I'm doing here is I'm waiting for both clusters to, collect and come into the same place, and then start stabbing. And when I kind of feel that my smoke is about to run out, I pop another one, and I keep stabbing them some more. And this way I basically keep them perpetually locked in stun, so that they are unable to detect me. This is the only way to no detect this. There's a similar mission in AC Brotherhood, and the way you beat that is by having 3 assassin signals and then just using Arrow Storm. And, arrows just shower the area and kill everything in 1 second. In this game, you have to actually play. So here, this is the last contract in Florence, I believe. This one spearman, I need to distract him and shove him around with thieves for a little bit. This minstrel is going to be a problem. And he doesn't have his like bodyguard because thieves bothered him. So we can just stab that guy and move on to Tuscany and San Gimignano. So San Gimignano, I used to hate the city when I was younger, but playing the game now, it really kind of made me realize how interesting it is as a play space, because San Gimignano is very tiny horizontally as a city, and that's because, you know, there's a lot of gameplay and activity in its surrounding area, the first of which you'll see here. So there's a target guarded by a bodyguard. We're gonna smoke both of them and then pull the target into the haystack. This is like as easy as it can get. But the city itself, San Gimignano, is quite dense and it's quite tiny horizontally because it has a ridiculous amount of verticality compared to every other city in the game. Like, it's full of towers. You can really kind of get almost everywhere without touching the ground, if you want to contend with rooftop archers, though. That's the other thing. This city has the most controlled rooftops out of every other. So what I do there is I use Unlocked Knife, which is, I hesitate to call it a tech, it's kind of just common sense, but the assassin will throw their throwing knife exactly in the direction that they were facing when you last released your movement input. So I basically just face the guard and kind of manually chuck a knife at him. And the reason I do this is because rooftop archers in Assassin's Creed 2 have this really weird behavior where if you lock onto them at the actual lock-on range and then throw a knife at them, they will auto-detect you as the knife is flying toward them. Whereas if you kind of just throw it at them manually, then they have no idea what's going on for some reason and they just get wrecked. This guy was an exception because he was literally facing away from me. We got some catch ledge porn for people who are into that kind of thing. I got a lot of good reactions on this moment. Catch ledge is amazing. Like, people are like, oh my god, parkour down was so revolutionary. And it was. But like, back in the day, we used to have this crazy shenanigans where it was actually skill-based and you could mess it up and kill yourself if you did it wrong. So that's this guy. You can actually kind of see him falling with me. There he goes, he ragdolls. Kind of a Hollywood moment there. So the last target here is, you know, not very special. There's a crowd right next to him, which means the blend grace period will stick to our body long enough to keep us invisible as we stab him. You see the shimmer doesn't run out until we finish the stab. So what the blend grace period is when Ezio leaves a blend group, there's a short period of time during which the blend state sticks to your character. And it's kind of just like a quality of life thing. Because if you became immediately visible to everyone around you as soon as you exited a blend group, it would be a little bit sloppy and it wouldn't be a very useful player tool. Whereas the way it works in the Ezio games now is that the blend grace period stays on you for, 1 or 2 seconds as you walk out of the blend group, and the only way to kind of shatter it quicker than that is to use a high profile action. So what that means is if you walk or fast walk, you can retain a small period of invisibility, which is really, really helpful. And it enables a tech called super blending, which some people already read the pinned comment in the Forli video, and some people did not. So we will be explaining that later as well. In the meantime, this guy is another really long tailing mission. There's a lot of these, comparative to how many I would like there to be. I'm okay with them in the story, because in the main story, whenever you're tailing someone, there's usually ambient dialogue going on, or they're talking to their buddy, or they're like, oh, the assassins are so pesky and bad for our personal health. They keep stabbing people. My doctor said that's not good, you know? Shit like that. Whereas when you're following Assassination contract guys and you're just tailing them, it's nothing. Like, nothing's going on. You're just slowly walking after a dude. And there's not much to speak of. But it is an exercise in patience, and especially at night it kind of lets you soak in the atmosphere, which is cool. You know, it could be worse. I could be tailing people during the day. That's when it's really boring. I really like nighttime in Assassin's Creed games. I think it casts a kind of special aura over everything. And it just feels cool. I don't know, maybe it's like my thief DNA talking. It's my experience playing Garrett's games that makes me really like nighttime and everything it represents. But yeah, I really like night in Assassin's Creed, and I wish there were more missions set during it. I get that it doesn't really fit super well with the whole social stealth thing, like it's supposed to be hide in plain sight, but then again, the new games don't have any of that, so give me nighttime. Now, this guy, he's right there, he's surrounded by dudes, so what we're gonna do is run up this wall, back eject, our lock-on is still stuck to him. Our camera now is freed of the lock because we are hanging on a ledge. And the camera snaps back to the lock when we climb up, and we can shoot him with a gun. So gun is a crazy useful item, and the first time I played AC2, I really undervalued how powerful it was, because I always just kind of assumed that no matter how I used it, it would get me detected, because it's super, super loud. Gun is, in many ways, it's kind of like the ideal stealth game projectile, because it's powerful, but it's also super risky. So you don't want to just like use it willy-nilly, because if you're too close to people, they will hear you and everyone will try to put their sword in your face. I hire these thieves to start killing these people because 4-on-1 is really, really easy for these guys, especially with unarmored folks like these grunts. And the reason I need thieves is because if guards are fighting another unit, they cannot detect you for doing high-profile actions. Like, that specific guard that is engaged in the skirmish cannot detect you. So, unless, you know, you walk up and try to actually stab him in the face and you fail. But what I'm doing here is I'm causing chaos using these thieves to basically turn off all those guards' detection down there, because I don't want them to be able to look at me. And the reason for this is because these two targets are a pain in the ass. The moment you kill one of them, or one of them gets spooked for any reason, they will start running. Happily, I locked onto this guy and started my hidden gun aim line, and it kind of lets me ambush him right here. So it's ultimately pretty easy, but figuring that out was aggravating. For a moment I actually thought those two targets would be impossible to do no detects, and I was just like, ugh, why are you doing this to me? But no, it's very, very possible. So this little mission here, there's just a little bit of everything. I quite like this one. We got some good movement, we got some decent flow. There are 4 guards that we have to kill here, I believe. And we're basically just going to connect the dots. That's pretty much how you want to play every mission that's like, kill these 4 guys. You just find the best way to kind of chain between all of them without wasting too many movement inputs and without wasting too much time. So we're gonna ledge this guy, and what goes up must come down, which applies to us as well. So we land on this convenient little fellow. This is the most dangerous bale of tea leaves ever. And that's that. There's really not much to say about this mission other than the movement is just really fun to do. So this one was also a little bit interesting because it necessitated that I refresh myself on how projectile ranges actually work in this game relative to lock distance. And I'm going to take a short moment to explain that. So in the Ezio trilogy, the distance at which you can lock onto a guard is shorter than the distance at which that lock will decay. So what does that mean? It means you can walk up to a guard, lock onto him, and then walk way outside of your lock-on range, and the lock will stay on him. Lock kind of only decays at 30 meters away. So what I do is I lock this guy, walk backwards. This is a distance at which I would be unable to lock onto him from. And then from outside of the baseline lock distance, you can gunshot, and they won't hear you. Like his surrounding guards won't hear you, because it's out of their hearing range. And we're just going to repeat this twice, basically. Later in Forli, you'll see me use this trick with throwing knives. And I had a few comments on that video asking me like, hey, why do you lock onto a guard and then run backwards? And it's like, because I need to be that close to lock onto him, but I need to be that far away to actually hit him without penalty. This guy's actually super easy. You can kind of just run parallel to his restricted area and just ready a gunshot from here and pop him. I really like this mission here. It's really funny. So the target is located in the ruins of the Roman theater, where Ezio kills Jacopo in the main story, and the first thing we need to do in order to get there, because it's quite a distance away, and its associated pigeon coop is just on the other side of the map, basically, for some reason. The first thing we need is a horse, so we're gonna run at this tower in the distance, and there is always a horse here. Once we grab this majestic beast, we have enhanced locomotion, and we can move over to where we need to go. So here we are. Now the fun thing about this target is that if he catches even a single glimpse of you, he gets very scared and he runs to a preset destination every single time. So here, I kind of let him see me for a second because this essentially isolates him from his guards. It's the easiest way to kill this guy without detection. So he always runs over here. He just runs away from all the people that can actually protect him. And then you put your knife in his throat. So yeah, that has been San Gimignano and Tuscany. And we can now move on to Forli. Forli is a bit of an interesting place. I really like Forli, atmospherically. It's quite depressing and gloomy, but it really gives me those AC1 vibes. So these two guys are actual targets, and the third guard to the left is of no consequence, so we're going to low profile assassination and walk to the end of the rooftop. If you run or do high profile movement on rooftops, surrounding rooftop guards will hear that, which is something that took me a long time to figure out a few years ago. I just didn't seem to get like what was going on because it seemed a little out of step with how the rest of the game works. So notably, ground guards don't care about noise. They don't care about the sound that your movements make. They basically don't exist for them. Which makes sense because they're on street level and streets are innately noisy. Whereas rooftop guards, I guess they're a little bit removed from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. So when they hear clanky footsteps running on the very pretty sounding shingles that they're on, they get a little suspicious, understandably. The final two targets are a duo. They walk in double assassinate formation for the player. Well, the problem with double assassinate is that it can be a little capricious, and sometimes you do everything right and Ezio will just kill one. But there's a way to guarantee a double assassination, and that's to do it from a wall. At least on these guys, and at least on that specific situation. So once again, there are 3 targets to kill. We're gonna gun this guy, and they have no idea what's going on. They're gonna start investigating the area, so we want to give them a wide berth and kind of let them do their job and stay away from them. This is the second guy. We want to make sure that there are no characters between him and us, so aim line is unbroken, uninterrupted, and release the shot whenever you want. And the third guy will actually just kill with our hidden blade, because there is a blend group right next to him, and it's no problem. Run away before he hits the ground completely, and we are home free. So this is the mission in question, where I lock people, I run back, and then I throw knives at them. If I were to throw a knife at these people at the exact range that I locked, they would turn around. So this is really a big puzzle where it's like, how do I lock a guy, and then how do I create enough distance between him and I where I can still knife him, but I'm not, you know, close to him. And for this guy in particular, he took some figuring out, but I discovered that you can just jump onto street level and keep your lock, and then you can knife upwards. Same thing with this guy. I just run up this wall to lock him, and then retreat so I can throw it from here. That's just the time warning. So this guy's actually staring right at me, and that was a bit of a spooky moment. He's not supposed to do this. So I'm going to kind of bootleg crouch behind this little wall here, which is just high profile and legs. And now he's forgotten about me. And you can see he started to detect me. He started to turn around as soon as he heard the knife. But then it didn't matter because by that time it was already buried in his neck. So the last two guys we can double assassinate, and we get a very nice, clean checkpoint. This is the first time that I will use super blending in my videos. Super blending uses the blend grace period to trigger a permanent blend state. And the way it works is, when Ezio blends with a crowd group, and then transitions to a non-standing surface like a horse, a beam, the side of a wall, a railing, or into water, just any surface upon which Ezio cannot stand upright, then you get to carry your blend state with you. So right now, I am actually blended, and you may notice that Ezio is all grayed out. He's lacking in color, which is the UI trick that shows you that you're currently in blend. In fact, if we were to go back and track down the blend group that I am carrying this blend away from, they would also be grayed out, even though they don't have an Ezio inside them. So I do this because this is the only way to kill this guy without being detected. I think they just assumed players would not want to be able to do this, or wouldn't pursue it, or wouldn't care enough. So they just, you know, some targets they just kind of expect you to get into combat, but screw that, man. So as you can see, the blend state decays as soon as I climb onto a surface that I can stand on upright. And then we're gonna lock this guy. And we're far enough away from everyone else that they have no idea what's going on. But just for good measure, I do walk backwards a little bit. So this guy is an even worse case of what I just explained. This guy is scripted to true detect you no matter what you do, as soon as you lock onto him. So you can be out of line of sight, you can be hanging on a wall, you can be in a blend group, it doesn't matter. You can even be super blended and he will still detect you as soon as you lock onto him. So the best way to clear that guy is to just kill him and move on with your day. Just don't even bother. They clearly want you to do like a long, drawn out chase sequence, and that was the only way they could figure out how to do it. So that's our boy. We're gonna prep our handy dandy bullet. And then we're gonna say bye-bye. Here, I use a trick that I actually just discovered during the making of this video. So I always knew that smoke bombs were this loud, kind of non-stealthy item in AC2, where if you put one down, guards get really suspicious of you and they start shoving you around, and it might actually cause you to get detected outright, like if you slap a smoke bomb on your feet, which in AC2 is the only way you can use the item. However, what we found out is that if you smoke bomb out of line of sight in a little corner no one can see, then they'll hear it and they'll want to investigate that corner. So the reason I do this is because up here there's a brute and a grunt that would normally be staring right at me. And as you can see, they do start staring at me, but that's just at the end of their investigation on the smoke bomb. And it gives me just enough time to squeeze through their vision cone without their detection meter capping out that I can run and climb up this wall. And this way, I can finish this mission without killing anyone except the guy I actually have to kill, which feels really nice. And we're going to end with a very, very nice leap of faith, which leads us to Venice. So Venice has a lot of movement and a lot of running around, but we're going to start with something cool. As you can see, Ezio snapped onto that gondola at the end of his jump arc. The gondolas like that, especially the ones that you can loot, basically act like haystacks. If you fall onto them from any height, Ezio will snap onto them, and you will not take any damage whatsoever, and you won't even take a fall reaction the same way you would from a long fall, where you hear him have his like heavy grunt. So it kind of lets you bypass a little bit of the physics. Thank you, Animus. We appreciate that. Now, there is a consistent glitch in this mission that, as far as I know, cannot actually be avoided. And what this glitch is when you kill the target, the game instantly and immediately spawns a replica of him at the exact coordinates that the actual body was at. So it basically clones him on the spot instantly. Now this clone is not part of your mission. Once you stab the guy, you've already won. However, the clone can kind of detect you on your escape, which is wacky as heck. I have no idea what causes this, or how they kind of didn't foresee it happening and didn't find it in testing, because it happens for me every single time. But as you can see, we super blend with that crowd, transition to the railing, transition to that beam, and then just drop into the water, and now we're permanently super blended in the water, and we're going to follow this guy as he leads us to where we need to go. As far as I know, this gondolier is actually friendly. He appears on your minimap as a blue icon, which is just, hey, follow this ally. So he doesn't care about you even if you're not super blended, but the target that he leads you to will very much care about you if you're not super blended. So here the game is going to give us a camera angle of the actual target. He's this super opulently dressed gentleman. We're going to walk up behind him, well, swim up, really. Ledge kill him, and as soon as we do, you see it spawns another guy right in his place. We finished the mission, but we're just going to book it and get the heck out as fast as we can. So this one is super, super easy. There's a person harassing a girl, chasing her around. Lorenzo wants us to kind of make sure he stops, so we are going to find his location and we're going to kill him without the girl actually noticing. From her POV, it's just gonna feel like this guy just disappeared all of a sudden and never bothered her again. And the easiest way to do this is there's a conveniently placed haystack that you can just hide inside and then do a haystack kill on him when he runs past you. Here is the haystack, here is the lady, and here is the target. Here, there are 3 guys we have to kill, and because I promised to use poison in Forli but never found much of a chance to do so, I'm going to use poison here. So poison is fascinating because it's extremely subtle. It's your shortest range kill action, but what it does is it basically delays the kill until, you know, several seconds later. It stops all of a target's movement, it wipes all of their properties and statistics, it resets everything to 0 or 1, including their HP. And if you punch someone who has been poisoned, they go down instantly. What's really interesting is that this technically counts as non-lethal, but it's very weird because these are still credited to me as kills, including the guy that I knocked out right there. But in AC Brotherhood and Revelations, for example, in missions that are like, hey, don't kill anyone, you can poison punch them, and they shouldn't technically die. I could be remembering that wrong, but in any case, that's a neat trick to remember. That if you poison someone and then punch them, they just go down immediately. And the cool thing about punching is that most of the time, guards don't care about it. Unless you know, have punched another guard, which you ideally don't want to do very often. This mission is super RNG. There's no rhyme or reason to the way this mission works. So basically you have to follow this thief because he knows where your target is. He's like, oh, I saw the bad guy, just follow me and I'll lead you to him. This thief can die like in 14 different ways, basically. I could probably make a video, like a comedy video, just showing off all the different ways this guy can get himself killed. So you kind of have to get a little bit lucky and just, you know, let him do what he does. So he successfully kills this guy, that's really good. We're gonna keep going, follow him. At times we will be helping him out, if only for the sake of speeding things up, because no one wants to sit there and watch NPCs do real-time strategy combat for like 2 minutes. Like, yeah, attack, move into each other here. There will be a point in this section where I have to actually do that though. So, bear with me. It's actually right here. This group of thieves is indispensable for this mission. We're just gonna sick them on the enemy, have them start fighting, and now it really becomes a protect. At this point is the point that our buddy thief guy can get himself completely destroyed in like so many different ways. Usually it involves falling off an edge into the water below. So I'm locked onto a guard. My lock decayed, but my aim line is staying. So I get to shoot him there. Ezio carries a maximum of 6 gunshots in his gun. That's a pretty sick move that I'm getting good reactions for. I know, guys. I know, it's cool to just interrupt someone mid-jump. It's so cool, in fact, that Ubisoft recognizes that as an official score bonus in PvP multiplayer in the older AC games. If you did that to a player when they were jumping from one building to another, you got a crazy score bonus, and they probably feel awful about themselves. So the golden guy is the guy we have to protect, the red guys are the guys we want to kill, and the blue guys are effectively our army for this mission. As you can see, we have a little bit of a numbers advantage, and they're just going to slaughter them. I'm waiting to see which direction this guy will go in. Because one of the other ways you can get him killed is if you're a bit too aggressive and too zealous with your own movements, you can actually interrupt him and cause him to fall down and kill himself that way, which is super annoying. So this guy kind of worries me a little. He's not doing anything, and that's not normal behavior, so we're just going to shoot him. We've got a lot of units deployed in this area. Thieves will usually stay with you, even after they've killed the target you've assigned them to, if Ezio is still in the area and if they know where he went. So this guy's gone, we're gonna keep moving. Our target should be here. Now, because this mission is so RNG, I really did not want to record it like a billion more times, so this hilarious pathing error, I just leave it in, because it's not worth it. We're gonna lock our target, wait until a good time. That looks like a clean shot, we take it, we win. So this one's kind of interesting. There are 3 Harlequins in this mission, and as soon as you move near them or they catch a glimpse of you, they will get spooked the same way that the guard in the Roman ruins gets scared. So like, they'll start running away from you, and what this allows you to do is, if you're clever, it lets you pull them out of the restricted areas that they're actually in. So for the first guy, he's stuck behind a wall of guards in a little secluded party area of sorts. But that party area leads out into a river. Like it edges a river. And if you... We're not a river, more like water. And it's right here. And if you run onto this boat, he catches a glimpse of you for a second. It's not considered a detect or anything, but he just scripted to run away, and then you can tackle him, you can beat him up to impress these ladies, and stab him with your awesome assassin weapons. So that's 1 down, 2 to go. This is number 2. He's gonna start running away. I kind of have to let this guy get a little bit of a head start to make sure he runs in the direction I want him to run in, and then I'll do wall run assassinate. You probably don't even see it. It's very, very short. It's very brief. But for the tiniest bit of time, Ezio runs up that wall before I tap kill. And what this effectively does is it extends your assassinate range to huge limits. Like, Ezio jumping off a wall to stab someone lets you kill them from way further away than just doing a high-profile running kill on the ground. So this last guy is pretty simple. We just high-profile kill him, and because he's the last target, the memory just straight up deloads him, and we're good, basically. This mission centers around a brute that Lorenzo de' Medici is not very happy about, because he's commissioning artists to aggrandize him and paint him as this legendary figure, even though he's like a nobody. And this offends our employer's delicate sensibilities. So he's like, hey, Ezio, can you go, like, put a knife in that guy? And we're like, well, no, but I will shoot him for you. So we're gonna go shoot him. And we need to shoot him because he's positively surrounded by guards, and he never ever leaves this little area no matter what you do, unless you get yourself detected, which is against the ethos of this video. And it is not acceptable unless we have absolutely no other choice. But in this situation, we do have a choice, and we're going to exercise that choice. So we're going to squish ourselves against the wall as close as we can, because this way it gets me as far away as possible from all the guards below me, and gives me that extra bit of distance I need to make sure they won't hear me when I actually shoot this guy. Not only do I have to wait for him to walk into position, I have to make sure that he's not currently right on top of other guards, and that other guards aren't close to my firing position. There's actually a lot of stuff to keep track of here. So I'm not just holding my aim line waiting for nothing. Like, it's a very specific scenario that you're looking for. Here we have to follow this lady. She's going to lead us to a guy. We have to kill the guy. Pretty easy. Following the lady is going to be done with the help of other ladies. So there are two reasons I get on this railing. One is to flex on the video game a little. So I get up here, and this girl's like, what? Who is that guy? And I go back down because I'm bored. But the other reason is that there's a minstrel there. You can see him. He's waiting. Now the thing about minstrels is that if Ezio is not on a standing surface, so like he's not on a surface on which he can stand upright, minstrels will actually leave you alone. Like, they won't be able to aggro onto you. They won't be able to start playing music for money or anything. So I just really didn't want that minstrel to bother me and start like messing with my pathing and my movement and my blend. And I also figured I could show a cool little technique that a lot of people probably don't know about. But yeah, if you're on a beam or a railing or anything that Ezio can't stand on upright, then minstrels will not be able to interact with you. So I want to keep all four of these girls on me as long as possible, which means we're going to curve around this guard group that's walking this patrol. We're going to keep following this woman until we can go over here, at which point my blend shield will start to, decay, because guards see them and they're like, wow, that's super hot. This guy shoves me, but it doesn't really mean anything. What we need to do is wait for this woman to stop glowing gold in Eagle Vision. At this point I super blend just in case. Lock the target, aim at the target, shoot the target, be happy. And this is the final memory, Hunting the Hunter. So this one is much like one of the Forli ones, a completely scripted detect. But unlike the Forli one, it is not a true scripted detect. So what happens in this mission is that Ezio has caught wind of someone who's trying to hunt him. They're trying to kill him because he's been doing naughty boy things in Italy, and the Templars kind of want to put a stop to that. So what you do is you wipe this guy out, and you loot his body, and you grab information. And with this information, you know where this bounty hunter is going to be found. Now, when you actually reach the bounty hunter location, no matter what you do, he is scripted to detect you immediately. And he and his goons will just all file into the area and start trying to hit you. You can super blend, and if you super blend, it will not change a thing. The same thing will happen. It'll still trigger an automatic detect, and they'll still file into the area and try to hit you. However, when most enemies detect Ezio in this game and they don't have a ranged weapon and they see him climbing a building, what they'll do is they'll start throwing rocks at you to try to dislodge you and make you fall down so that they can hit you. You know, you're on the ground, you're in melee range, they can engage onto you. These guys, you'll see that they do not try to throw rocks at me. And the reason for that is because they actually don't know where I really am. Like, they have a vague idea. They start clustering around me, but they don't take their standard AI actions because I suppose the designers didn't anticipate this being a thing. I mean, I should hope not. Super Blend is a very, very powerful technique that kind of solves a lot of problems. So you would expect them to have been unaware of this. Unless they just left it in for testing purposes and something like that. But in any case, we super blend from those mercenaries, we drop down to a non-standing surface, and here, normally to do walling and to do movement on the side of a building, I would use drop and catch ledge a lot more liberally. But the problem with doing that here is that there's a haystack behind me, and if I detach from this wall, I will immediately get suctioned into the haystack. And I don't want that because it'll shatter my super blend. So instead I just slowly inch my way down here. That's a fake, it's just a dummy. It's an ambush, oh no. Super epic scripted moment. And now I'm just gonna let them gather below me. I'll wriggle a little bit to kind of see if my movement input can influence them to stack up in a different way. It's not really the case. I select smoke, and I'm gonna wait for that outlier to, there we go, right there, boom, nice and tidy. And stab, and we are good. So that has been all of the assassination contracts. And to tie things up, I have a few bloopers. So remember that guy that's scripted to run away from you in Forli? Let's say you use unlock knife to kill him from a distance, it doesn't matter. The mission basically soft locks here. So the target is dead, he has no HP, he can't be interacted with in any way, you can't loot him and you can't pick up his body, but it still wants you to try to kill him. This was just a funny moment that's like, wow, that's rude. You're running away from me and you're like shoving me to the ground? Bastard. This is me just being pro at parkour. And this thief is definitely fired. So, thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you later.